Madman on the throne, George III, King of England. King George is perhaps the most famous mad monarch of all the European monarchs who suffered from mental illnesses. During the 60 years of his reign, many historical events have happened in the world. These are the Great French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, and the independence of the North American colonies from England. George III ascended the throne when he was 22 years old. And at first everything went on as usual. The king was well educated and actively engaged in the affairs of the state. He delved into everything, listened attentively, asked a lot of questions, and solved the problems that arose. Besides, Georg was a wonderful family man. Married to Charlotte Mecklenburg-Strelitskaya, they will have 15 children. But one day the king's health deteriorated sharply. Fever started, the next day sensitivity to light. The pulse became frequent, profuse sweating appeared, legs began to swell, hallucinations appeared. The court doctors were in a stupor. They have never experienced such symptoms. They could not understand what the king was sick with, so the treatment was, to put it mildly, as strange as the monarch's illness. Georg spent hours lying in a tub of hot water. Then he was fumigated with alcohol vapors, given various powders. And all these long days the king was in a dark room with tightly curtained windows. And suddenly the disease also abruptly receded, as it appeared. Whether the doctors contributed to this, I do not know, but the king recovered and again began to show great interest in the affairs of the state. 3 years have passed, and Georg has forgotten his illness like a terrible dream. But one day the disease returned. Since then, she began to visit the unfortunate George more and more often, and also abruptly leave him. The aggravation occurred in 1788. One night, the Queen rushed out of the marital bedroom with wild screams. What happened is unknown, but she made it clear that she would never return there again. The next day, King George was unrecognizable. He was in an excited state. With wild eyes, he walked around the room and talked. This went on all day. Then he lay down and fell asleep. Everything was quiet for a while. Many breathed a sigh of relief. But soon the attack was repeated. This time George decided that London was flooded and people needed to be rescued urgently. He rushed around the room, gave orders, and then began to write letters to European monarchs with an appeal to repent. It was clear that there was something wrong with the king's psyche. The question of the regency arose. A well-known London psychiatrist at the time, Willis, tried to help the king. Occupational therapy, enemas, rubbing, as well as a straitjacket in moments of exacerbation for a while bore fruit. However, over the following years, the king will lose his hearing and sight, and his behavior will become even more strange. Eventually, in 1811, George's eldest son would be appointed regent of the feeble king. George III was celebrated in 1820 at the age of 82, at the same age as the Mad Queen Maria of Portugal.